Hey there, YouTube. Today we're going to look at an older Peavey Predator when they were still made in the US that I picked up for about $200 on eBay. Came in very rough condition in certain regards, but I do believe it's a diamond in the rough. And that's what we're going to be looking at with this video, is transforming this into a restored and playable guitar. Now, one of the reasons that I bought the thing was because it had been converted from an SSS to an SSH. They added a Gibson humbucker, unusual because rather pricey, Gibson USA humbucker, and didn't spend the extra little bit of money to get the right pickguard, and chewed this thing out. Looks like a rodent went at it, gnawed at it. Very, very poorly done, broke it in the process in multiple spots, really rough on it. My guess, probably a younger guy did this. This is certainly a home job, not anything professional in even the most minimal sense of the word. But at the same time, I saw this thing, I said, well, first of all, that Gibson humbucker is going to be worth at least something, at least a chunk of what I paid for the overall thing, and I might either use it in another guitar, I might sell it on reverb. That's my option. Now, I already put a new pickguard on it. Very easy thing to do, you just transfer the electronics, and I've got it back with the SSS configuration. Now, a few of the little things that I've been working on. First thing is that there was some issue with getting the pickguard slid up in there in the recess under the neck, and so you can see here I have been using my Dremel and working that out so that it's a little easier to slide in and out. It was very close, but just a little tight, and I think was part of why that one had so many breaks in it, from them trying to work this in there and just, you know, being too rough with it. Now, looking at the electronic side of it, one of the reasons that I've decided to maintain the electronics is that you've got some pretty decent electronics in here. Large potentiometers, large pots, and overall everything was well done, welded in there, soldered in there I should say. Everything looked really good, and I tested it out when I first got it. I tested it while it still was set up to play. Made sure it made sound out of all the pickups, everything was good, because it was sold as a functioning guitar. But once I confirmed that, then I went to taking it all apart and starting to work through it, replace it. Now, a few other things. I'm going to put some copper tape in here. This produces a conductive barrier, particularly helpful for the single coils to keep out that hum of the background electric, right? And so that's an easy thing that you can do yourself. A coil of that, a roll of that copper runs about $6 to $8 maybe. Very easy to do. Now, one thing to be careful of is if you're doing the entire cavity and you're working over here with electronics, make sure anywhere that there might even possibly be a connection that you also follow it up with a layer of good old rubber electrical tape, and that makes sure that you don't have any shorts in the system. Believe me, I've learned this from experience. And really the most important part to have shielded is around the pickups themselves, but it is helpful. And if you do it right, you can also increase the amount of dampening in the ground side of things too, as the potentiometers ground into that backing plate, and then if you connect that in to the coil field, you're good to go. So anyway, so that's some things I'm going to be working on here. I'm also going to, of course, have to rewire for that third pickup. I haven't decided what pickup I'm going to put in it yet exactly. I'm just going to go through my my bucket of pickups and see, is there something I've already got that I want to use, or do I want to buy something else. You'll also notice that this is vintaged in the sense that it is actually legitimately got that yellowing happening. You can see the original white and then the vintaged color from the sun exposure. And because of that and the relicking, let's talk about relicking here for a minute. Now, I'm not one to artificially relic guitars, and that is to sand them, to beat on them, to, some people, you know, douse them, light them on fire and stuff to give all sorts of weird stuff. That's fine. If you're into that, I'm not judging. I'm just not into that myself. But natural relicking, as in all the nicks and bruises from a life of gigs and presumably spending some time in dive bars and that sort of thing, getting dropped on stages and handled here and there. That sort of thing I tend to like, in the sense that I like to preserve it. I don't refinish over this. Not only is it hard to match the exact color, especially of a vintage instrument like this, where you've got yellowing going on in the clear coat, but it adds flavor to the guitar as long as there's no major damage. And this is a good example of, it's got a lot of paint damage here and there, something skidded across there at some point, it's got some nicks and bruises and so forth, but nothing catastrophic. And something I would also point out about the craftsmanship and quality of this instrument, as I was sanding on the inside block cavity there, this is made from very hard wood. Wood, not only, I mean, you've got the species, you've got the kind of wood, but individual cuts of wood will have different characteristics, and this one is very, very hard. It's respectably lightweight, but of a very, very hard nature in that, I mean, it really takes some effort, and you can even see in the cavity that they were coming at, they had to extend for that humbuckers, the poles, and so they used a Dremel, looks like, with a sanding head, but they came at it at an angle to try to... It's in better hands now. But I looked at this, and, you know, the Gibson humbucker itself will take some of the damage out of the price tag, potentially, but I thought this was worth saving, and so I'm going to take you along on this journey as I take this from a beat-up eBay, you know, resale, back to a respectable, well-played, you know, really cool guitar.